Hey you! You probably like Magic the Gathering, right? You like casting spells and shit. What about Dungeons and Dragons? You like rolling dice and flirting with your friends while pretending to be a mysterious tiefling rogue? What? No, I'm not projecting at all. First of all, you don't even know what that word means, alright? And secondly, sneak attack? Yeah, that's a 26 to hit, so 46 more damage, but it's actually an automatic crit because you're surprised, so 8d6 damage? Cool. Then bonus action, I'll dash. If that all made sense to you, then you're probably also a massive nerd. Great! Maybe you've asked yourself before, what if I could combine these two incredible games? All the gay flirting of Dungeons and Dragons, all the tactical tabletop combat of Dungeons and Dragons, channeled into the spell-slinging, world-hopping adventures of being one of Magic's titular Planeswalker characters. What if you could play a Planeswalker in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? How would that even work? Hi, this is the part where I introduce myself. My name is Hen, or I write robots on the internet, self-described robot kisser, and currently rocking a big ol' 5 in my dexterity score. I tripped up the stairs the other day at work. That's how I know I've got a -3 to dex checks. Honestly, it's kind of impressive considering my workplace is only 1 floor. Anyway, I'm a writer and video essayist who likes to talk about Magic the Gathering, but I'm also a big-ass nerd about tabletop RPGs. I know, shocker, right? I've played TTRPGs for most of my life, and I've put a hell of a lot of hours into designing and demoing my own TTRPGs as well. Mostly, though, I do homebrew content for the various games that I enjoy, which naturally includes a lot of custom subclasses and lineages for D&D 5th edition. Chris Perkins actually still follows me on Twitter from back when I was mostly a D&D personality online. Chris, I'm so sorry if you've just been watching all my robot shitposting from the sidelines. Today, I'm presenting a rule set you can use in your own D&D games if you and your players are wanting to play a campaign of Planeswalkers hopping across the many worlds of Magic the Gathering. I'll go over the rules briefly here, but you can also find a link to all of this in the description below if you just want to read it yourself. It's hosted at the wonderful mtglore.com, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a site that helps organize and catalog the Magic story for your reading pleasure. Go check it out, it's honestly so cool, and it's really kind of them to let me put this supplement up on their site. And hey, while you're there, maybe check out some of the other phenomenal stories in this game written by incredibly talented authors. But for now, let's get back on track with D&D. So how does this all work? This supplement is aimed at helping players and GMs alike know the essentials for making and running games with Planeswalker characters. It goes over what a Planeswalker spark even is, and how most Planeswalkers get their start, color identity and how it relates to your characters, and, of course, mechanics for Planeswalking. You can read through the character info on your own, but for now, let's talk about mechanics. Planeswalking is an action that all Planeswalker characters gain access to. It's a magical effect, but not a spell, so it can't be counterspelled. It requires a check against a set DC, and it takes a minute to channel. Whenever you take this action, you'll make a Planeswalking check. The DC of this check is determined by where you're trying to Planeswalk to and how familiar you are with that location, which I'll explain more about in a bit. For now, let's say the DC is 10. You'll roll a d20 like you would for any other type of skill check, and then for bonuses, you'll add your character's level to the check as well. This way, Planeswalking doesn't rely on any one particular stat and can be done with equal ease across your strength-based fighters to your intelligence-based wizards. Additionally, your skill as a Planeswalker is reflected in the experience that you have, so as you level up, you'll naturally get better and better at Planeswalking. If your bonus to a Planeswalk check ever exceeds the DC of the check by itself, you can simply automatically Planeswalk there, no need to worry about rolling nat 1s. Similarly, if you ever exceed a Planeswalk check's DC by more than 5, so the DC is a 10 and you roll a 15, you can Planeswalk to a specific location on that plane that you know of, such as a specific part of the city or maybe even an exact building you know. If another Planeswalker is Planeswalking to a plane that one or more other players in the party aren't familiar with, they can offer a description of that plane to lower the DC for each of those players by an amount equal to their level, which allows you to take your Planeswalker allies with you wherever you need to go. Now let's talk about planar familiarity. In my supplement, your knowledge of the planes as a planeswalker is categorized into 4 tiers, which are familiar, traveled, known, and unknown. The DC to travel to any given plane is determined by how well you know that plane. You should track this on your character sheet. At level 1, or at the time your spark ignites if you haven't been a planeswalker since level 1, your character is familiar with 2 planes, their home plane and the plane they first planeswalked to when their spark ignited. As your character travels across the multiverse, you'll gain familiarity with more planes by spending increasing time there. The DC to travel to each of these tiers of familiarity increments by 5 and reflects your experience as a new planeswalker. In the early levels, let's say 1 to 4, even traveling to a familiar plane can be a test of your newfound ability to planeswalk. But by level 5, you can at least navigate the familiar planes without having to think about it anymore. By level 10, you're adept enough to travel to even the planes you haven't spent much time on, and of course a full level 20 planeswalker can move to all of the planes with ease, traveling to even the far off or unheard of planes without so much as a thought. So that's the basic gist of planeswalking. Now, the supplement includes a couple special cases that I would recommend reading through, such as when you're on the brink of death or being pulled by a planar beacon. It's also important to know that planeswalking takes energy to do. You can't just planeswalk infinitely. And when you fail a planeswalk check, you simply don't planeswalk. Maybe the blind eternities aren't cooperating, maybe you're unsure of how to tether yourself to a strange plane like Duskmourn, or maybe there's just a temporary lapse in your abilities. I don't know. What matters is it's nothing to be worried about. You can planeswalk a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before you need to rest for at least an hour, so you'll get any spent uses of the ability back after a short rest. Alternatively, if you're out, you can always push yourself to planeswalk anyway, taking on a level of exhaustion in the process, but maybe you don't have an hour to sit around before needing to make an escape. Now, that's basically all there is to it in terms of mechanics. The rest of the supplement is just information that will be helpful for players trying to make a character within the world of Magic, and DMs who are looking to have a campaign that spans multiple different planes. At the bottom of this supplement, you'll find a chart that I've made with literally every plane in it that we know of. This chart is broken up into 2 halves. The first part is well-known planes that we've visited in the mainline story and standard release card sets. This is places like Innistrad or Ravnica. The other half of the list is lesser-known planes with no official card sets and very little lore to them. Places like Aranger or Crida? Whatever. The plane of confusing vowel pronunciation. These are planes that you might need to build out a bit more on your own if you want to use them as a campaign setting. Both charts will link out to helpful pages on Magic's new and non-fandom wiki powered by the folks at Scryfall. Woohoo, am I right? For any of your lore needs. And the charts even show you which sets have taken place on those planes if you wanted to look at the cards for some inspiration. Maybe you find a 2/2 that you want to use as a combat encounter, or just check out what the locals wear on all the art. I've also provided a little description for each plane and a list of notable locations and natural phenomenon that are featured on that plane. Once again, this supplement can be found completely for free over on mtglore.com, and I'll put a link to that in the description. I put a lot of time into developing and even more time into playtesting this rule set, so if you give it a shot, let me know what you think. I'd really appreciate hearing the feedback of players and GMs alike who are going to try this out. If you want to support this work and more like it, you can also find my Patreon in the description below. It's pretty bare bones for now, but for only $1 a month, you can show your support for projects like this and help me keep making these videos. I hope you and your players have a great time planeswalking across the multiverse and getting into all sorts of trouble. That's all from me though, so kiss a robot on the mouth and take it easy.